Robe is on location in Petaluma, California with lighting designer Norm Schwab from Lightswitch. Tell me about this location.
Well, it's sort of a dream come true. We found it kind of by moving further and further north in the North Bay. We were in Marin County and then slowly moved out here. I mean, Sonoma is just this amazing area surrounded by vineyards and cattle country and has land and is very, I don't know, it's animal and food driven and just really just an amazing lifestyle place to live.
And you call it the 64-leg ranch, is that right?
Yep, we have 64 legs, including 4 human legs. That is 6 greyhounds, 24 legs, 2 full-size horses, 3 miniature horses, 1 miniature donkey, and 3 sheep.
That's a lot of legs.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're actually going to take a little trip back and talk about how you first got interested in doing lights, or how light first came into your life.
Yeah, high school. Let's go all the way back to high school in 1970. 70
something.
70, yeah, we'll call it 75. Ew. And I was in high school and I was, you know, good at things like track, bad at things like school. And I was kind of struggling, and my parents said, why don't you go to this summer acting class? I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Why don't you go to this summer acting class? I went, I got thrown in there and really fell in love with not necessarily learning lines, which I hated, not necessarily acting, but really the culture of around the performing arts and the theater. You know, just the camaraderie, the family, the fact that you were thrown together with people for this, to do this production. And you know, there was bits of everything from improv to just, you know, like a schedule that you had to keep, to a storytelling, all this stuff that I had never really experienced and fell in love with, though I hated the acting part of it. So there was a director of this theater program who became really one of my big mentors, and I said, I don't like acting, but I want to be part of this. He said, well, there's this thing called lighting, and there's also this great theater school called Carnegie Mellen. So he, you know, between getting me actively involved in understanding how amazing lighting design was, he also prepared me for Carnegie Mellen by helping me build a portfolio and do things. I then got interested in rock and roll before I even went to Carnegie, took a year off. So I fell in love with music and all that, came back to Carnegie, started in the theater production, which was a lot about, you know, not just lighting, it was production, technical direction, scene painting, theater history, period, style and form, all an amazing education.
Was there a first sort of big break or significant show that set you on your way?
I did this internship from Carnegie at FM Productions, which was Bill Graham's concert company, and got kind of, that thrust me out to the San Francisco Bay Area. I'd never been west of the Mississippi. So I learned a lot about a million things there, including, you know, again, you know, product launches, David Bowie's Serious Moonlight Tour, you know, the Olympics, 1984 Olympics opening and closing ceremonies. Learned a lot there and went on my own. And of all things, I was working with I think I got a break from a guy that owned a trucking company who knew I was interested in doing touring, and he put me on a tour with the Bangles. And it was the Bangles right when they were doing Walk Like an Egyptian. And so I got thrust into a tour that we were starting with an opening act, and before you know it, we, you know, we're doing arenas and that. Same thing happened on the B-52s, where we did Love Shack. We started out in clubs, and then we went to theaters, and we went to arenas, and then we went to kind of stadiums, and that was, you know, almost in this minuscule, like a year, to watch something, you know, like build up like that was amazing. So I mean, those were kind of my big musical big breaks, I think, that, and it got me, you know, out in the world of touring.
Lightswitch is your design studio. When did you start it, and what led to that? What was the sort of, you know, what were your goals at the time and so on?
1993, John Featherstone, who was out doing lighting for the Smiths, and I was doing lighting for the B-52s, we met and worked on a show together, on another show, and we really wanted to come up, we were starting to get a lot of work and trying to figure out how we could take jobs that showed up on the same date and you know, do them as one designer. So we said, why don't we form a consortium of designers, kind of an organization, a Bauhaus as you were, and this would be given a name, a company name, or a studio name, and not the name of the individual designer. And at the time, it was just John and I. We've now grown to 8 offices, everywhere in the U.S. We also have an Asian office. I think we're looking to expand into the Mideast, things like that. Again, what we really want to do is build this family of people that and we have everything from designers to drafts people to media, people that can create media. It's really, again, diverse. One of the things we pride ourselves at Lightswitch is that we are one of the only firms, we're not alone, but we're one of the only firms that does both heavily live entertainment but also built environment. When we first started out, those two worlds were pretty far apart, live and built, and I think as what we've watched at over the years is that they've slowly kind of come together.
Looking back over your your extremely full and varied career, are there a couple of highlights or memorable moments that you could share with us?
Well, those projects I can talk about because there's sadly too many I still am sworn to secrecy on. I think probably one of the most exciting was the Golden Gate Bridge 75th anniversary, which amazingly was 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago coming May, where we had to celebrate the anniversary of the bridge with pyro and searchlights and music, and really we were afraid of fog and we wanted to bring the celebration into the bay, so we had barges with pyro and moving lights and had to do SIMPD via AM radio because things were miles apart, and we had to deal with the FAA, the Homeland Security. We had to deal with the environmental people that had to protect the turtles. We weren't allowed to have the lights shine into the water. We couldn't have the lights shine to Alcatraz. They also wouldn't close the bridge except for the shows, so we had to do everything under the duress of the bridge being open, programming virtually with previs. It was very challenging, and I think it culminated with we turned the architectural lights off on the bridge to start the show, and we heard 500,000 people in the bay cheer. And you just don't recreate those moments very often in your life. So,
what do you most love about your work?
I guess my work now, as I've gotten older and as we've gotten bigger, has evolved. And I think what I would have said before is maybe the traveling, getting to meet new people, doing the shows. But it's really evolved. I think I've learned that, I have to make some choices, and hopefully the choices include not doing the things I'm not good at or won't do, that's a hard learn for everyone. I really am kind of leading teams of people on projects that have, different groups of people, different timelines. Some of them are live events, some of them are, theme park projects, some of them are office buildings, some of them are immersive experiences. So, just being able to lead teams of people, manage them, and really see that, see people grow, still have, know that I have a creative influence on it, but also, float around actually and have all this influence from different groups of work on the same day is amazing to me.
Why do we need light in our lives?
I think it's, everything from, our mental health and our the emotional clues that lighting gives. Some of them are very subtle. Some of them are, very strong. I think, our ability to use light, to artificial light and sometimes daylight, to lead people in a direction and also influence how they feel. Once you understand that you can make someone reminisce on a sunrise or a sunset just by a lighting cue, and all of the emotions that brings to people, hope, sadness, happy, the dawn of a new day, and what that represents in people's minds, and you can create it on a lighting board with digits and pixels. It allows you to understand the influence you can have on someone's life. from, you know, Burning Man, Coachella, you know, all these things that are sort of light and art driven. People want them in their everyday lives now. It's not just going to a theater, they want it surrounding them. And so, you know, everything we do is important now, not just in a theater, but on a building, on a public square, in a park, you know, virtually. You know, all the virtual things that are happening with lighting and how important it is for even in the virtual world, for those people to hire lighting designers.